What's going on YouTube? Today I'll be explaining why 720p will never be better than 1080p. And you might be wondering, why the hell am I making this video? Well, it's because somebody by the name of ADeadRat ADR tried to defend 720p upscaling and tried to prove that 720p upscaling is in fact better than 1080p, which it is not. And we're going to be going through his videos and pointing out all his flaws. Now, I'm not going to try to hate on him, I'm not going to try to shit on him or anything. I just hope that I inform the people that were misinformed by him with proper information. So let's get into his video. Actually, before we get onto his video, let me quickly explain what all these numbers mean. So 720p is pretty much 720 horizontal lines of pixels, and 1080p is just 1080 horizontal lines of pixels. So already you can start to tell why 720p is not really better than 1080p. More lines means more detail that you can put onto the screen. So now that I've said this and you understand what all these numbers mean and what these resolutions pretty much are, we can go on to his video. The first real flaw within his video is when he first launches this game and he mentions that this is 1080p gameplay while ignoring crucial elements like graphic details. So he actually contradicts himself here. He tells everyone that he ignored graphic details like anti-aliasing and all the texture settings. Now the funny thing is, when he goes on to 720p, he actually admits the fact that he's turning the graphics settings up. Right here in the video he says, "I couldn't care less for native 1080p because I know native 1080p isn't going to compensate the loss of graphical details, gameplay, and frames per second." So he's telling everyone that he's turning the graphical settings up, and he's telling everyone that native 1080p can't compensate for the loss of graphical details. So I'm starting to think that he just named his video really wrong. Okay, it has a really misleading title. I mean, the title of this video is Native 1080p 60 frames per second retardation in the gaming community. Alright, the name of the video should have been something else. It should have been something like 720p max settings versus 1080p low settings. I mean, seriously. Alright, you're making a very misleading title, and I think if this is the point that you're trying to prove, that 720p at max settings is better than 1080p, then yes, you have a misleading title and everyone is in fact misunderstanding you at this point. So name your videos better, because that's a pretty unnecessary title and it's not really explaining anything about the video. Now, as you can see here, he starts to show us screenshots of a YouTube video that seems to be comparing graphics of an Xbox One and a PS4. Now, I don't know where this video is and where it could be found. I don't know if it's a legit video. I don't know what games they're comparing, so I can't say anything. But the only thing that I can say is I'm sure that there are Xbox One games that look better than it does on the PS4, and I'm sure there's games that look better on the PS4 than the Xbox One. Not every game is going to look better on one console. Some games, I'm sure, are optimized for certain consoles, and you only showed us a select few of games. You could have easily biased what you're showing us and only showed us games that are better on the Xbox One. I have no idea which console has more better looking games, but you see my point. Not every game is going to look better on the Xbox One. That's the same thing goes for the PS4. So this point is also pretty invalid. Now right here he's showing us the frame rate difference between the 720p side and the 1080p side. But you need to realize that your GPU works much harder to produce a 1080p image. It has to put 1920 times 1080 pixels onto your screen, while on 720p it only has to put in 1280 times 720. Whatever those numbers are. So your GPU works much harder to produce just any 1080p image because it has to put more pixels on the screen than it does with a lower resolution, just any lower resolution, not just 720p. Now you're comparing a 240p PSP game to its 1080p upscaled counterpart. Now, of course, the 1080p version is going to look better because it has more pixels. You upscaled it. But if the game was running natively at 1080p, it'd look better than the upscaled version, especially since the upscaled version without anti-aliasing actually has quite a bit of pixelization. Now, anti-aliasing takes away the jaggy edges, so of course that's going to make it look better. But that's messing with the graphical details, and we discussed that earlier. You cannot change graphical details when comparing the two graphics. By now, I really hope that to the people that were confused or were misinformed by ADeadRat ADR, I hope that you are well informed now and you know why he was wrong. And to Mr. ADeadRat ADR, I hope you realized why you were wrong. I hope you can admit that you were wrong, or that you just named your video really badly, because you did. If you're trying to say 720p max settings is better than 1080p low settings, then you named your video terrible. I mean, really terrible. That's a really misleading title. Everyone's going to take it the other way, and it's completely unnecessary. So I hope that all of you learned something. I hope that ADeadRat ADR, yeah. I hope that he learned why he was misinforming people, and I hope all of the misinformed are now well informed. So please like this video, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.